Welcome to This Explainer. We're going to dive right in and treat the human brain exactly like a high-performance engine, uncovering the exact biological conditions needed to fuel long-term memory and learning. We often think of memory as just this thing that happens automatically in the background, but the truth is, it relies heavily on how we care for the biological machinery behind it. So today, we're breaking down the evidence-informed foundations of cognitive health.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be exploring 5 key pillars: the biology of learning, sleep and memory consolidation, learning through human connection, navigating supplements and apps, and finally, taking everything from brain health into actual learning.
Starting off with pillar number 1, the biology of learning, and how moving our body actually supports the brain. Physical fitness really isn't just about building muscle or stamina. It literally acts as a direct pipeline, pumping vital oxygen and blood right into the brain. And more specifically, it fuels the hippocampus, which is basically the engine room for forming and retrieving memories. Regular aerobic exercise physically supports this critical brain area, which lays the whole biological groundwork for literally everything else we want to learn.
Think about the last time you were stuck in a 3-hour meeting or a massive training session. Brutal, right? If you just stay seated without any breaks, your attention inevitably plummets. But a simple biological timeline can keep cognitive readiness at its absolute peak. Just by throwing in a short movement break after 60 to 90 minutes, you completely reoxygenate the brain just in time for a retrieval activity, perfectly setting the stage for new learning.
So, to really nail this first point down, a body that is physically active supports a brain that is ready to learn. Exercise isn't just a general health intervention or a nice bonus, it's a strict prerequisite for attention, energy, and cognitive readiness. If the body is stagnant, your brain's ability to process new information just slows to a total crawl. Moving right along to section 2, sleep and memory consolidation. Let's talk about the brain's night shift. This perfectly illustrates a scenario we've literally all lived through at some point. You've got one student trying to force learning through sheer willpower at 2 a.m. with way too much caffeine. Then you have another student who actually respects their biology. They study efficiently, practice retrieval, and then get some decent sleep. Well, more study time does not automatically equal more learning. Why? Because a sleep-deprived brain physically cannot consolidate information. It absolutely wrecks your attention and working memory for the next day. So instead of trying to beat the natural forgetting curve by cramming, we have to recognize that sleep is actually the active phase of memory building. When you pair learning with adequate sleep and then follow it up with retrieval and spaced review, you stabilize that newly acquired information. During those different stages of sleep, your brain is actively reorganizing and strengthening what you just learned. It really all boils down to this concept. Sleep is not lost learning time. It's part of the process through which learning is consolidated. Resting our high-performance engine is just as vital as running it. Rest is not the enemy of productivity or learning. It is the environment where memory actually takes root. That brings us to pillar number 3, learning through human connection, which we like to call the social catalyst. It is super easy to write off conversation as just casual chatting, but man, the cognitive load required is massive. When you're engaged in a meaningful discussion, let's say you're forced to explain a really complex concept to a colleague, you aren't just making noise. Your brain is firing on all cylinders. It's actively retrieving prior knowledge, organizing it on the fly, interpreting meaning, and identifying the gaps in your own understanding. It's continuous cognitive stimulation. But here's the catch. Intentionality is everything. Just throwing people into groups doesn't magically create learning. Interaction becomes educationally powerful when learners think, explain, question, and retrieve together. It's that active construction of meaning that makes social engagement a true catalyst for embedding knowledge. All right, into section 4, navigating supplements and apps. These are our cautious extras. It's so tempting, isn't it? We tend to think that if a little bit of a nutrient is good for the brain, popping a whole handful of supplements must be a game changer. But actually, scratch that. More isn't automatically better. You have to start with a balanced diet and adequate hydration. Supplements, like vitamin B12 or omega-3s, really only support normal functioning when there's a genuine nutritional deficiency. They are rarely a magic educational intervention to fix bad study habits. Now, what about the digital side? Those incredibly popular brain training apps we see everywhere. Well, we've run straight into a massive roadblock known as the transfer problem. This is the harsh reality that just because you get amazing at a specific memory matching game on your phone, it does not automatically mean your overall general intelligence has increased. So, will playing a daily brain game actually make you better at math or chemistry or learning a new language? The short answer is no, absolutely not. The improvements usually stay strictly specific to the exact task you're practicing. If you want to get better at remembering chemical reactions, you have to practice retrieving chemical reactions. If you want to learn Spanish, you have to retrieve Spanish vocabulary, not play a disconnected logic puzzle. We've got to be super careful not to fall for the myth that mastering Sudoku on a commercial app will instantly make you universally smarter. The best way to become better at remembering is often to practice retrieving that exact meaningful knowledge. Direct retrieval practice of the material you actually want to learn will literally always beat out generalized brain games. And finally, Section 5, From Brain Health to Learning. This is where we look at the ultimate formula. Bringing it all together, we get this incredible 5-step model. And notice how the very first step is purely biological, preparing the brain through exercise and sleep. But then, as we move down through engagement, meaning, and strengthening, we transition completely into the learning sciences. You manage the cognitive load, utilize retrieval practice, space out your learning, and then, you sleep again to consolidate it. Biology sets the stage, but the science of learning executes the play. If we map all this out into a single master framework, it breaks down perfectly. Notice how the proven powerhouses, exercise, sleep, and social interaction drive optimization and growth. Meanwhile, it keeps supplements and brain apps correctly framed as situational, limited tools rather than some kind of magic bullet. Ultimately, guys, memory isn't just a switch you can flip on. It is a highly dynamic equation. You absolutely need the deliberate combination of a biologically ready brain alongside highly active, repeated learning strategies. You simply cannot achieve strong, long-term learning if you are missing half of this equation. So, I'm going to leave you with a question to really chew on. As you look at your own learning habits, or even how you teach others, ask yourself, what should I change tomorrow to remember more? Challenge how you're fueling your own brain engine. Are you giving it the physical movement, the restorative sleep, and the focused retrieval it actually needs? Start optimizing those exact conditions tomorrow morning, and I promise you, you will fundamentally change how you learn.